every other person on this board. I want to congratulate those who were admitted to the 2022 cohort of the AGMCP. You are very, very privileged to be part of this initiative. This is one of the few initiatives that I know that are mentoring African doctoral students and early career researchers in-depthly. I would like to once again welcome everyone. I'm also here to learn. I'm also here to learn from your own experiences and from your own journeys. But before we proceed, I missed out on some of the introductions while we were preparing for the meeting. So if you would kindly drop your names and your institution affiliations and your countries, that would really help me in communicating. I want to look at some cultural differences with writing and citations and all related issues to academic writing. So please kindly drop your name, your academic, your institution affiliation, as well as your country in the chat box. Last month, although I wasn't privileged to attend in person, I followed the conversation around writing strategies for writing abstract. And I think it's an important skill that we need to learn prior to our orals as doctoral students, and even for those of us who are early career researchers, because you have to apply to several conferences, several fellowships, and they require you to summarize your research in, say, 250 to 200 words. So it's important to learn those skills. Now, in follow-up to that, I also think that it is important to learn how to write in itself. I'll be sharing my screen shortly, but I'm currently experiencing some issues with connecting via my laptop. So while I'm preparing that, I would like to speak to some of the issues that I have already highlighted to discuss. All right. So today's I was saying that this team, or this webinar is rightly titled Citing Excitingly. And you might want to ask, is it really true that you can be excited while writing? Talk more of citing, all right? And I'm here to tell you that yes, you can enjoy your writing process and you can cite well to the point that it becomes an exciting enterprise for you. All right. So if you permit me, I want to share my screen to discuss some of the preliminary issues before I continue. All right. Please let me know if you can see my screen. Can you see my screen? If you can see my screen, just say yes or drop it in the chat box so I can be sure you can. Okay, you can say it. Okay. Although this is not all of what I'll be presenting, when we get to the technical session, I will switch to my other device. I want to make sure that this is an hands-on training, and that's okay, sir. Thank you, sir. I want to make sure that this is an hands-on training, and to that extent, we'll be having what's it called? Go-throughs on using these softwares, especially Mandalay, and turn it in. So in case you don't have Mandalay, I'll advise you try downloading it now if you are connected to the internet. All right. And in case you aren't subscribed to turn it in on your institutional on through your institution, I advise you still go to the website. Just go to the Turnitin website so you can, see how the Turnitin interface looks. Just a minute, I'm trying to navigate to connect. What's it called? To connect to my other device. So you're welcome once again. I'm happy that we have people from all over Africa here. We have people from Ghana, we have people from Kenya, we have people also from Sudan. I can see that we also have people. Obviously, we have a lot of our folks here in Nigeria, and so much many other people are joining us via YouTube. Now, why is it important for us as graduate students to learn how to write well? And why is it important also that we can cite well? I made a post recently on LinkedIn, and some of my thoughts about the reason why graduate students get rejected when they submit their papers or abstracts for publication isn't far-fetched. Now, although there are some journal editors that are biased towards certain kinds of writing, and they expect you to conform to those writing standards, which I argue is highly colonialized or colonized rather. I mean, why shouldn't I be able to use contemporary English? And by contemporary English, I'm sure you know that English has changed from years because I'm writing or I want to publish in an elite British journal. All right. So these are some of the biases that some journals have towards accepting manuscripts by, students and graduate researchers from developing countries like most countries. I also think that it is because of the poor quality of some of these write-ups, especially the fact that some of them fail plagiarism checks. That is why they are rejected. Now, and this discourages the authors and makes it look as if they can't write well. It is not as if they can't write well, it is just that they haven't learned the art of owning their writing skills. All right, so for this webinar, I'll be quickly looking at the following issues. I'll be looking at academic writing and publishing. I would say some few words about it. We also look at common ways that graduate students and early career researchers plagiarize. We'll look at some of the common ways by which that graduate students often plagiarize. We'll also be looking at the APA manual of style because I think that is one of the most common writing styles or referencing styles rather used by many institutions in Africa. So it's important we know what the APA format is. Then we'll be looking at softwares and tools that we can use in during writing, and after writing. And I'll zone into using Mandalay as well as turn it in. And if time permits, we can do some do-it-yourself exercises. So a quick word about writing. And by writing, I'm talking about academic writing and publishing. All right. While I argue that academic writing is not too different from writing in the generic sense of it. I beg your pardon, just a minute. Let me rotate my screen. I think that academic writing, except for the standards and the use of certain languages, it doesn't quite differ from writing in other formats or in other contexts. But the benefit of academic writing is that you get to communicate to a scholarly community. And that's why it's important for graduate students to learn how to write very early in their careers. Now, I'm sure many of us are aware of the publish or perish syndrome, which is one of the most, I would call it debilitating challenges we have in the academia. in the African academia, especially because a lot of institutions have attributed scholarly contributions and scholarship generally to the number of papers you publish, and not so much to the impact that your research has, especially to the audiences that you're communicating to. But as it is today in many African institutions, if you want to navigate graduate school successfully, if you want to get promoted at your job, especially if you're a lecturer or a researcher, if you want to, seek certain kinds of academic related jobs, you must publish. So that is why it is important for us to learn how to write early, and not just write, but cite well in our writing. I'm going to talk a little bit about my early writing, and perhaps that can stir up certain conversations after this talk. In 2015, while I was rounding up my master's program, I took interest in sustainability. And I need to let us know that sustainability is the main thing in the world. I'm sure we can attest to that. So whether you're in environmental science, public health, health economics, forestry, physiology, or even political science, we have something in common, which is our desire to see planet and people change and become sustainable. All right. So sustainability research is something that has been my interest for a while now. I started reading around sustainable development. I researched it since 2012. And 2015, I took particular interest in the COP summit, the Conference of Parties. And that was when the Paris Climate Change Conference was to hold. Now, I did a couple of, what's it called, research, desktop review on issues of climate change in Nigeria. And, I proposed to a senior colleague of mine where I was working at the time. And he said, oh, why don't we write the paper on this? And I said, wow, I never, ever thought about publishing. I mean, as a graduate student, just leaving master's, my intention was just to, proceed to PhD without necessarily thinking of publishing my research. All right. Now, what I didn't learn at that stage was that it takes process for you to be able to write well. And although these things look common, but unfortunately, because of the kind of that most pedagogic methods in teaching graduate course doesn't just straight away goes online and start looking for okay, I'm back now. I hope you can hear me now. Okay, so I was saying that one of the challenges many graduate students face when it comes to writing is because of the way we were taught. Many of us weren't taught to iterate our writing ideas. Sometimes when you are given a term paper assignment or a project at during your graduate program, the lecturer or an advisor rarely teaches you the process of writing, whereas writing is iterative. What that means is that there are steps you take in writing and obviously in publishing. All right, so this is one of the challenges I feel many graduate students faced. And I also faced when I was doing my, what's it called, my master's program. So I sent this proposal to my colleague. He proposed that we publish it together. We chose a schedule or an outline for writing, and I went online, did my online work. Then I didn't know it was important for me to cite every of the references or every of the sources I consulted. All right. I was caught in the euphoria, or in the what's it called now? I would say the euphoria of publishing, of getting my work out there, especially when, since then it was COP 21 was still forthcoming. So I was very, very interested in, sending my work out without necessarily looking at to what extent I am communicating according to a tradition. And this is the problem we have. We don't know that when it comes to writing, you are communicating, and in essence, you are connecting with a scholarly tradition. You're linking what that expert or that scholar or that researcher has said with what this other person has said, and you are interpolating and drawing your own conclusions. So it is important we understand that writing is iterative. That's the point I want to make here. All right, so now let's quickly look at common ways that graduate students plagiarize. I hope we can still hear me. Please, if you can hear me, say hello or say yes.
Yes, yes.
Okay,
Yes.
that's good. Yes, thank you. So, common ways that graduate students or early career researchers plagiarize. Number one, by handing in an essay or an assignment that you did not write, or using another student's essay or work about without their consent and passing it off as your own work. And this is one of the most common ways people plagiarize. You are asked to do a project or write an assignment, a term paper, or an article, and you just copied out what someone else has done without acknowledging that person as the original author. In fact, it gets bad that some people copy out even the names of the original author and submit that way. I mean, that's the worst criminal offense that any academic or student can commit. All right. So that's one common way of plagiarizing. Another common way is by failing to put a quote in the quotation marks. All right. So when you are writing and you don't indent, italicize, or put a quotation mark in that write-up, then you're most likely plagiarizing, because most or some of the times you will have to quote verbatim from the sources you consulted. So it behooves that we put quotation marks to show that this is an excerpt from another author. All right. Another common way is inaccurate authorship, and this is known as misleading attribution. All right. Because you read a text, and in that text you read, that author cited another author. Now, some people, rather than consult that other author, that third author, just assumes that because this author has quoted them, that means that is exactly how it is. So you cite that third author as though he was the one you consulted. I hope you understand that. When you are supposed to cite or consult a third reference because you read that reference in another text. That's called snowballing. Say I'm reading on sustainable development in Nigeria, and I saw an article by Professor Olaide, and in that article, I saw that it referenced particular Professor Laiwola or Popola Labode. And so because I found what Professor Labode said in that text, that Professor and cites Professor Olaide, or rather cites Professor Labode. That's inaccurate authorship. All right. Now, another common way is giving false information about the source of the quotation. Rather than say this quotation is this page number, this text, or this particular journal issue, we give a false information. That's also plagiarism. So you see that we have to be very meticulous when it comes to citations. Another common way is copying sentence structure, but changing the words around it without giving proper credit to the author. Now you copy, and by the way, you know that when it comes to writing, especially in academic context. If you copy more than 4 lines of another author's work, you're expected to put it in a new paragraph and indent it. I hope you know that. We'll get to some of those basics later on. If you copy about a line or 2 lines, you can still put it in quotation marks. But if you copy more than 4 lines, you're expected to put it in a separate paragraph and indent them. All right. So when you now copy whole sentence structure, you don't put quotation marks, you don't indent, and you assume that that is your write-up, then that's plagiarism. All right. And that's one of the things that I want us to address by using reference managers, because reference managers makes it easy for you to cite from source. All right. Then lastly, copying so many words, or second to the last, I beg your pardon, copying so many words or ideas from the source that it makes up the majority of the work, whether you give credit or not. So sometimes when the bulk of your article or your manuscript contains another person's work, and you just change some few lines, maybe the topic or the conclusion, even when you reference that particular author, it is still plagiarism. And I see that it is because many graduate students or researchers are lazy. They feel that the way this person has constructed this text or the words is so nice and there is nothing else that can be added or removed from it. Whereas writing is not so much about, well, it is also about how you communicate, but it is not so much about how, it is also about what you're saying. All right. So when you are saying what makes sense, even though you are not articulating it in proper, pristine English, and you submit it as your original work, the editor is responsible for helping you to moderate it, to help you rearrange it, and sometimes give it to a copywriter or a peer reviewer who helps you re-articulate your thoughts, as long as those ideas are yours. All right. So you see the mistake many of us make because we feel that we are not good in English language and writing. We feel that the way a particular author has presented a text is best. And if you edit it or if you remove anything from it, it makes it weak. No, that's plagiarism. Then finally, from this end, self-plagiarism. I hope you know that even when you are the author of a text, if you mention that text or you mention points you raise in that text in another writing, it behooves you to cite it. You don't say, I'm the original author now. Can't I write my own words? Can I use my own words? But because that initial text, that initial publication has been formatted according to a particular standard and most likely archived or indexed in many indexing websites, if you use those same words in another text without referencing, it will assume that you were plagiarizing it. So that's why it's important that, because for instance, I'm about to make many applications or many writings that I keep using almost the same words that I use. You know, I have some words that are peculiar to me, but I make sure that I cite them so that anyone who has seen the previous one would know that, yes, this is the same author who's writing. All right, now let's quickly go to understanding the APA manual of style. Please, if at any point you think I'm too much in the east or you are not getting me correctly or properly, please don't hesitate to drop a message in the chat box or just call my attention so I can redress. I hope that's fine. Now, just for thought, do you know that even when you paraphrase or reword a text without providing a citation, it is still plagiarism? What some of us do is just to paraphrase or reword a sentence structure, and we copy it and assume that that is our own words. No, that is plagiarism as long as you don't mention the author of the original text. Now, to avoid falling into that trap, I suggest that just a minute. Okay. I suggest that you should get used to referencing academic content effectively. All right. So when you get used to referencing, it becomes second nature to you, that even when you copy someone else's post on WhatsApp on Twitter, Instagram, or any of those media, you would like to put the source so that other people can know that although this is not originally yours, you are conveying another person's idea in your own way. All right. So that is why we need to get used to referencing. And please permit me to say some few words here. Like I mentioned earlier, there's some structural problems that that accompanies academic writing. Structural problems in the sense that many students can afford to access papers to the actual authors. Many researchers don't have funds to pay, you know, what's it called, research assistants to help them pull data and summarize them. All right. And so many other structural problems we face in the academia, especially in this part of the world. But this is still not an excuse for us to keep plagiarizing, because this is the impression we are making to the Western world. All right. And I'm talking as an African student and an African researcher. Yeah. The impression many people or some people in the West, in Western academics, have of African researchers is that many of their content are not original because they have had to, review and edit so many plagiarized work. In fact, let me let you know that when you send an application or send a write-up from Africa or from any country in Africa to maybe an international journal or maybe to what's it called, a fellowship board or for whatever purpose, the first thing they do is to run it through plagiarism check. All right, that's what they do. They run it through plagiarism check to make sure that this is at least it conforms to global standards. So that's why we have to also be conscious of those things here and early as African students. All right, so let's know what the APA Manual of Style is. How many of us are familiar with APA Manual of Style? If you've ever used it or you've heard about it, kindly raise your hands. Let me see. The APA Manual of Style. Sorry, I'm trying to minimize the network disruptions. That's why I'm not with my video on. Okay, yes, thank you. Now, the APA Manual of Style is one of the citing formats or citation formats that are used by many researchers and many institutions across the world. And it is one of the most recognized citation formats. It is not the only citation format. There are several other citation formats. And by the way, APA means the American Psychological Association. All right. So there's also the Chicago style. There are several other styles, all right? The APA still remains an recommended citations manual of styles. So let's understand the APAs. Now, when you're using or when you're citing a journal article, you have to put the author, whether it's a singular author or multiple authors, the surname of the author first, followed by the initials of the authors, then the year of that article in brackets, then a full stop, a period after the bracket, the title of the article, now the name of the journal or the periodical, the volume of the journal in brackets, the edition. So for instance, Journal of Sustainable Development, volume 6, issue 4. So 6 will be outside, 4 will be in parentheses. Then you put the page numbers. Now, if that journal is gotten online, you have to put the DOI. The DOI means Digital Object Identifier. And the DOI is how that article can be traced by anyone else reading your article. All right. So if you are citing an article that you sourced online, please make sure you get the DOI. Except that is a print, except the journal is a print, material and doesn't have an online version. But for most journals and most articles sourced from the internet, there is often a DOI. So that's for citing or referencing a journal article. If it's a book you want to reference, just the same format. But what differs is that you will not put, what's it called now? You will, well, some books have DOI, especially if you also downloaded it online. So you can add the DOI, but for most of the books, especially if they are print, you don't have to include the DOI. But another important thing about referencing books is that you have to include the publisher, because there could be a book of the same title by another publisher. So for instance, if I'm referencing contemporary issues in sustainable development in Nigeria, published by the Routledge, there could also be that same title, Contemporary Issues in Sustainable Development in Nigeria, published by, say, Elsevier or University Press. So if you don't have the name of the publisher, it would amount to plagiarism or sometimes inaccurate referencing. I hope we get that. Now, if it's a chapter in a book, especially if it's a multi-authored book, it follows the same format. You write the authors, the name of the author of that book, of the chapter you're citing, not of the book. The name of the author of the, what's it called, of the chapter you're citing is what you write first, the title of the book chapter, then you put in the name of the authors of that book itself. All right, those are the editors. Then, continuing that way. Now, let's quickly go to avoiding plagiarism. Is everyone okay with how we've gotten so far, where we've gotten so far? Do you have any issues? Do you have any concerns? Do you have any? I will be entertaining questions much later, but I just want to ask if anyone has any form of, question. Anyone? Or any form of, query that I might be able to put. Okay, so the aspect of who to be cited. Okay, I'm saying that. Okay, the aspect of who to be cited. If I see a quotation in author A's paper that I want to use, and the author cited another author B in this paper, am I to reference author A or author B? Like I said, it is important you reference that author you consulted. All right. So you can then say that this author cited this other author in his work. So for instance, I'm looking at a book written, let me use the example I used earlier, an article published by Professor Laide, and he argues that climate change has been one of the persisting environmental challenges in Africa. And they say, in fact, its effect is mostly felt by dwellers. And he quoted Labo de Pupola 2011. All right. Now, in citing, I shouldn't hasten to cite Labo de Pupola as my own reference because I did Labo de Pupola. I consulted Olaide. All right. So I'm going to be a responsible author by saying that so and so has been a perennial problem in African countries, especially in rural areas or rural settlements. Laborde, so and so, cited in Olaide 2011. I hope you get that. So you're supposed to mention both authors, but you're supposed to prioritize the author you consulted. All right. That's how it works. And I would personally advise that you don't have to mention, what's it called? Many of the popular quotations, because it will make your write-up wordy. I mean, if this is a trite point, if it's a trite point, like it's a point that is common, it's banal, you can just stick with the main reference you consulted. So rather than say Labo de Pupola cited in Olaide 2010 or Olaide 2011 or 2013, I'll just make the point and say Olaide 2011 because that point was made in Olaide's work. I hope you get that. But responsibly, you're meant to mention the third author in the work that you consulted personally. All right, I'll still get to this when I deal with using it. All right, moving ahead, I would like to save time now. One of the ways we can avoid plagiarism is by iterating our writing processes. Like I said earlier, iteration means you take it step by step and you let it evolve organically. One thing I've learned to do as a researcher is I take my writing pad with me everywhere I go, because I know some writing ideas come to me instinctively. So somewhere I go with my diary, and we have to start learning the art of journaling. I wish there is going to be another webinar around this, how to journal as a researcher, because research happens every day, and the issues we see around us in society constitute research problems. So we need to be very sensitive and very alert to the issues around us. So when, for instance, I'm going from my workplace back home and I see an issue or a traffic jam, I have to pin down some of the challenges and notice, whether in that public. I'm saying that you must learn when, and doesn't mean that there are clear demarcations in writing, but in you or within you, you know that you have to prepare for this write-up. Now, I say that there are pre-writing or pre-research stages, which is also the reading stage. And by the way, every good researcher or writer has to be a good reader too. So if you want to learn how to write well, you must learn to read well. Sometimes it takes you to read for an extended period of time to read to write just one paragraph. I've had that experience myself. I've had to read several authors before I can come up with a very cogent and very, comprehensible idea. So you know that there is a reading phase. And I suggest that at that phase, there are methods you can use to help you, trap, not just trap your ideas, but also trap the sources of those ideas or the sources of the books or the works you consulted. Many of us are familiar with Evernote. Evernote is an app that you can use I just stumbled across a reference to Friday and I saw a book that caught my attention on the specs, and he won't be able to release that book to me after I leave. I just read that book, then I see the author, I copy the details of the book. You have trapped that source, that reference in your device at that time. Another app like that is Docker. You can use Docker to annotate the books word to delineate the references you consulted. So in my own literature review template or matrix, I have the serial number, I have the author, I have the year of publication, I have the title, I have the particular quotation that caught my attention, and another column where I have a summary of that quotation. So when I want to write or when I'm doing, I create a literature review matrix, what I call a dump sheet. All right. In that dump sheet. Now, because it will be plagiarism for me to copy that same text manuscript, I reflect on
Hello, can you still hear me? Can you hear me, please? I need a feedback.
Yes, we can.
Yes,
Okay.
we can.
The
We can hear you
presenter
now.
will continue now, please, with this. Thank you.
Thank you. Sorry for the light disruptions. One of the challenges we have in Africa, and I hope you're also thinking about that as sustainability research as this network issue. And it's something we have to start thinking about. We can still make necessary changes. So as I was saying, I was talking about how you delineate your writing process. I said which to the other. You don't just that I've done that writing, or I mean research, all right. I'd rather you do both so that in case anything happens to your online formats, you can always resort to the backups. All right. Now, so the literature review matrix is what I was explaining. You take one author work, the publisher, and the excerpt of that work, you dump it in the Google Sheets, either the Excel or the Microsoft Word sheet. Then you summarize it in your own words. After you summarize, then you copy it back to your main text. All right, so you have a kind of backup for that particular reference. So it will be easy for you to know where you got that citation from. The reason why many of us plagiarize is because we often forget where we get the sources from, or attracted me, so I just write it out without remembering where I got that particular idea from. So that's why you can track these things in your texts, I mean, in your notebooks or in on your pieces. All right. Now we move from note taking to the writing stage. So at the writing stage, we have several apps that we can take advantage of. Don't forget, we are talking about how to avoid plagiarism. And at the writing stage, you can use Grammarly. That's one of the most common tools for writing, especially when you want to avoid making typographical errors. I use Grammarly a lot. So I copy my content and put it on Grammarly already. I liked the ones with typo and all of that. I edit them and I save it up. You could also use drafting. You could also use other tools that you can use. Now, as you're writing, you must also be referencing. All right. You remember I said it is iterative. So you don't wait before you chapter or write one page or one paragraph before you reference. You must learn writing, have all your documents, all your sources, how to do that later. I hope I can get to use my will cope, will survive, and will make sense. Sorry about that. But I hope you're still following me, please. If you're learning or gaining something, let me see in the comment section so I know I'm communicating. Okay, all right. So thank you. Let me run through the reference management app so we can go to the practical aspects. Mandalay is one of the most commonly used reference management softwares. And like I mentioned earlier, with Mandalay, you can you can use the references you've already copied into a folder directly in your writing. As you're writing, say for instance, I mentioned a particular statement and Olaide was going to make a statement. So I just click, I will show you how we do that. I click on that particular feature, then it quotes or cites Olaide automatically. So it makes it more effective than having to write a page or a chapter or a paragraph before you cite. That way you might get
Sorry, sir.
Okay.
I think it might be better if we see your screen.
Oh, you're not seeing it now?
No, we are not seeing nothing now.
Okay.
Hold on. Sorry, we'll do that now.
Okay, is it clear now? Is it visible now?
Can you see this screen?
Yes, we can now.
Okay, I hope it is. So, moving from writing to checking your writing, all right? After you've written, and please, you don't need to have the entire article you take for plagiarism. That's one common thing that affects a lot of write-ups, because you then have to go and start correcting it from the start, and it becomes tedious. So I advise that I don't want to suggest a particular limit of word, but I will say perhaps 1,000 words. Every 1,000 words you write. So as you're writing, you can also reference materials and also check for atomic recently pre-post all right, so let's move on mentally.
Yeah. To like it.
I was asking before the network went off if you have any, let me see. Mandalay, but it would be good if you already have someone who does, so we can walk through that. Now, while we are waiting for those to have Mandalay, let me quickly tell you what Mandalay is. It's a reference management software, like I mentioned earlier, that allows researchers to create references, citations, and bibliographies styles. You know, I told you there are multiple citation styles. Other than the APA, there's also the Chicago, and many institutions never reference it or as necessary. All right. You can quickly access an effective version, or the web version rather, can be used as a search engine. It's an academic database, just like you go to Google Scholar or ResearchGate or academia.edu. All right. You can also use Mandalay to search for, writing or related articles or books or materials to the one you're currently working on. In fact, once you sign up on Mandalay and you enter details of projects you're working on, Mandalay will regularly send you suggestions of similar papers that you might find useful for your work. And you can just simply copy them or cite them automatically. So you see why Mandalay is one of the things that we need to get used to. And it is also free, all right? Although there is also the paid plan, but generally you can find the free version. Is not the only reference management software that you can use. There's also Zotero. I'm sure many of us are aware of that. All right, this court organize. I was saying that I would suggest that members of this current cohort organize themselves into study groups where you can I don't mind providing advice at such group meetings, but it is good. So you can also use that to see what each other we show you how you can navigate mentally. All right. So are there people who have done that so I can be sure? Are there people who have installed it already? So I can be sure I'm not the only one here. But even if you've not installed it, kindly go online and type Mendeley so you can see how it looks. And I already have it. I just want to.
But this
No, I'm not promoting this, but I would speak to this one. So see, there's anyone who can notice many of us have said the network is bad, but I hope you can hear me now. If you can hear me, kindly say yes, so I can pray. So I was asking if there's anyone who has installed Mendeley. If you haven't, I'll advise you do that so we can walk through it. Please let's go to the home page. All right. So Mendeley. So I was saying that it is easy to use Mandalay. You need to is you can't screen, don't worry, I just came online, I just want to be sure you're filming. But share the slides later, and in fact I would suggest we share the slides later so that everybody can follow up. But what is important that you follow the conversations, all right? So I was saying that with Mandalay, you don't have a problem because it is easy to use. It's relatively easy to use than many of the other reference management software I've tried mine on. Now, the Mandalay interface has 3 columns. I hope you can see my screen of the folders you've created, the options generally, all right, more like the image. That's on the leftmost part of the interface, all right. Look like what is already showing on your screen, all right. So after that, you also have the particular folders of materials. Sorry, this is just a little bit of challenge, but I'm sure we are still following. I'll share my screen now. So I was saying that if you already amended the interface, the leftmost side of it is for the folders and other options. All right. The middle interface is for the particular files in that folder or in each folder. So for instance, if I'm working on, say, change politics in Africa, I can copy materials that are relevant to that topic that are found online into that folder. So once I can see or each of those files in that Explorer. All right. Now, if you click, it gives you that file. Are you following this? Saying now, to quickly recap, Mandalay has 3 interfaces. The most part is for the options and the folders. The one in the middle is for the material. At the rightmost part is for the particular material file you've selected, details of that file. All right. So the name of the journal, the year, the page numbers, as well as I was saying that if you have any questions or queries, please feel free to drop them in the chat room. Sorry about the network issue. We would send a recording, the slides later on. But at this point, it's important we try and answer many of the things we have said. All right. So I asked if there's anyone who has installed Mandalay on their devices. It's on your phone, it's on your PC or your desktop. Kindly identify or indicate rather
so I can give you host permission to share your screen. Is anyone like that? And is raising up their hands? Who's that in the chat room so I can see? Okay. Still waiting for you to identify, but in the meantime, like I already told us that this is not, but and it is quite for all softwares of this nature, there is usually a user guide that you can access from. By the way, Mandalay is I was saying that I will share my screen shortly so you can see how Mendeley looks like. But for those of you who have already installed it, I'll appreciate if you can also follow through with me so we can navigate it together. All right. So let me share the screen. Yes, so this is Mendeley. You see, like I mentioned, it has 3 interfaces. This is the options interface where you find the different folders and the menu. The middle interface is for the different click one of those articles, you see it in the right bibliographic detail about that particular material that I click. All right, so this is how Mendeley looks like. And what all right, so let's adapt citation. Let's adapt a reference. So for the document, say I title the climate change. All right, that's the title of the. I've seen several articles on climate change. So we know that there are different types of literature review. There's a system, also the methodology and what have you. But the most fundamental one we know is literature review, where you draw, ideas from two. I'll share my screenshot. You can do it. Right. I was saying that to have the public version of the text. You can, all right. So, for instance, came across a master's or PhD thesis that is unpublished and is relevant to the article or the project I'm working on. And I want to cite it because I don't want to plagiarize. How do I go about that? Now, with Mandalay, all you need to do, whether please say yes, so I can be sure we are following. Can you all see my Mandalay interface? Oh, okay.
No, we can't. Or I can't.
No, I can't see also.
It is all dark and I don't think I can see anything either.
Back again. You can see, okay. How about now? Please let me know if you can see it now. Can you?
I can't.
No.
No.
No, I can't.
Okay. Okay,
Hello,
it's coming on. So
presenter.
let's
Sorry
just
to
hang on.
interrupt. Is it
Yes,
possible?
Okay,
we can.
It's not showing.
Yes,
Okay, you cannot see
it's
it.
showing now.
Yeah,
It's showing
Yes.
now.
yeah, okay. Yes, thank you for the feedback. Someone was asking a question in the background.
Yes, sir. Is it
Go
possible
ahead.
to stop your video and just share screen alone? I feel maybe the network will be
Okay.
able to contain it if just one.
Okay, I thought of that too.
Yes.
Thank you for suggesting it.
Thank God.
So I'll just stop the video now. Yeah, no problem. Thank you. So let's hope the network improves with this. So now that you can see my Mandalay interface, let me quickly backtrack on some of the things I said earlier on. With Mandalay, we can cite conveniently and we can cite excitedly because it makes it easier for you to have all of your materials in one space, all right? So you don't need to start drawing or checking what material you saved in another folder or trying to ask a friend of yours that you check their material for you to have them. Once you can copy all of those things in a folder, you can import that folder into Mendeley. Like you see here on the screen, this option is for all the folders that's Personality has on his Mendeley's library. All right, we call it the library. See the my publications, you have all of the documents there. All right. Now, like I told you, the middle interface is for the particular files in a particular folder. So say I created a folder called climate change. Excuse me, please. Climate change in Africa. By the way, I hope you know that the Circularity Conference is coming just Thursday. So please, it will be interesting to particularly following the development after last year's COP summit, and it will be interesting for you to see some of the politicking, because I have a background of politics, so I have an interest in the policy making processes and also the actions that implementing climate change policies. But that's just an afterthought. Now, I can tell that it's related, right? You can either add individual files or add folders or add particular documents like great literature that are not necessarily in print format, or that are not, what's it called, available in online digital formats, all right? Now, there is this option called watch folder, and I would like to explain what it means. Now, say for instance, on my own laptop, I have a folder where I download any and every material relating to any project I'm working on. And that's my PC downloads folder. So immediately I download it, it goes to that folder. Then from that folder, I can sort it into the relevant writing folder that I'm doing. So when you use watch folder, it routinely goes, as long as you're connected to the internet, it routinely goes to that folder to source for text or files that have been downloaded in that folder. So in case you forget to import that file to Mandalay, Mandalay automatically imports it itself. So you see why it's important for us to know some of its tools. All right. Now let me add files. So I go to that arrow button, I click on add files. I hope you're following. Then I go to whatever file that I want to add. So for instance, on this desktop, there are several materials or trials that are currently in progress. All right, but I'm just trying to improvise. So say I also have a folder called Climate Change Politics on the desktop. So I can just go and select a material in any desktop or any folder rather that I have already created, or maybe I haven't created but is relevant to that writing project I'm working on, then click on open. All right. So when I do that, Mandalay imports it. All right. So you see how that works automatically. All right. Now, after that, I can also go and say, for instance, I've already copied all the materials I need for a particular write-up. Let me use, okay, I was looking for this particular file. Okay. I have already created that folder because many of us are very organized, and it's important we start learning the art of organization now. Don't leave your laptops with several folders or several files without organizing. In fact, one of the soft skills of a graduate researcher, a graduate student, is you routinely going back to your documents and reordering them, reorganizing them, so that you don't need to wait till when you have a call for paper or a writing project. You can easily access those materials all in one place. All right. So say for instance, I've created a folder for a writing project called Climate Change Politics. I can then import that folder in Mandalay. I hope we are still seeing my screen. I hope we can still see the screen, can we?
Yes.
All right. So yes, thank you. So like I said, you know, the one we did earlier was to import just a file. Now we can also import folders. So in case you have already created a folder where you put all the relevant materials for that writing project in, you can then go to add folder, then navigate to where the folder is. In this case, the folder is in the desktop. So I go to, just a minute. Okay, I go to the next to desktop, then look for the folder. Okay, so climate change politics, that's the folder I'm interested in importing. Click on it, then click on OK. All right. So you see, Mandalay imports all the content of that folder to the interface. All right. Now let me show us the third one. Entering articles manually. You know, I talked about great literature. Great literature are unpublished literature, all right? And it doesn't mean they are not important. It just shows that they have not gone through that process of being converted to online publications, all right? So whether it is your master's or PhD thesis, whether it is in news, in some scholarly traditions already, printed text, so they no longer constitute great literature. But in some disciplines or some research traditions, they are still considered as great literature. For instance, I have an informal chat with Professor Olaide or Dr. Muiwa, and they give me insightful ideas. I should not take those ideas as my own. I should be able to reference it. So I have to document it as great literature. So with Mandalay, you can also do that. So don't forget how we got here. We went to the add files. We clicked on add entry manually. Then here you select what format that great literature is. Is it a book? Is it a book section? Blah, blah, blah. Is it a film? Is it a journal article? Is it a report? Is it a TV broadcast? As sustainability researchers, we must be keen to listen to updates, whether it's on the TV, on the radio, and all of these things, and cite these sources so as to show our audience that we are following a tradition of, of scholars of knowledge that have been already produced about that area. So in my own case, I want to cite a thesis. So I click on thesis, then it already gives me the format. So I enter the details. In my own case, me, that's the surname. Then I then put the initials, all right? O-D-A, all right? Then the year, say I use 2016, number of pages, say typically 100 pages. Then I write the abstract for that particular thesis here, all right? Then the keywords, say keywords for that, what's it called, thesis is sustainable development. I hope you're following. Sustainable development, blah, 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 right, my department, political science, right? The university where it was published, that was the university, or where it was conducted, the University of Ibadan. And what's the type? Okay, it's an unpublished. It's an unpublished thesis, or in this case, it was my master's dissertation, all right? An unpublished dissertation. Then in case you've archived it online, say it's on your academia or ResearchGate profile. And please, I also like to encourage us to upload our materials online. It's important for knowledge communication. There are many scholars who want to cite you, but how will they cite you when they cannot access your work online? So it would help for us to create academic profiles like academia.edu, ResearchGate, Scholar, Google Scholar, and several other ones. I can suggest some so that we can easily, extract the URL or the DOI for those materials. Then I can upload, the file. So for instance, that thesis can be scanned, all right? Then I upload it. So let me just choose a random PDF document just to make sure that we understand this. So say this is my, what's it called? My scanned thesis. So I just upload it. It comes onto Mandalay, all right? Now this setting is important. If you put exclude from Mandalay web catalog, it means you don't want people to access it. It's for your own private purpose, all right? But if you tick or check this box, what that means is that any other person who is searching on it, don't forget I said that Mandalay doesn't just function as a reference management software, it can also be used as a social networking tool for researchers. So once you click on that checkbox, Mandalay will make your work available to any researcher who might be willing or interested in working around that topic you've done. So I save it, all right? So see, it appears on Mandalay, and I can rightfully, cite it. Now, I didn't remember to add the title, so you can still edit it. All you go is just click on the left, I mean, the rightmost part. So I work for sustainable perspective. All right. All right, so this is the thesis or dissertation that I worked on, and I can also cite it. Don't forget, we said self-plagiarism is also a form of plagiarism. So you not citing what you've previously worked on is still plagiarism. So to avoid that, you can import your grey literature on Mandalay. Now, that's about importing. Now, when we are writing, how do we then cite most of the materials we've already imported on Mandalay? All right. But before I proceed on this front, I want to be sure that people got how we got to this point. So for those of us who have already imported Mandalay, installed it, I hope you got me up to this point.
Hello, good afternoon.
Yes, I'm with you, sir.
Thanks. I commend the effort of the organizers. Please, I have a question.
Okay, please proceed.
The question is that when you are naming, when you download a document, is there a particular format for right name of that document before you can use it on Mandalay? Thank you.
You may have to repeat the question. I didn't hear the most part of it. Or drop it in the chat box so I can read it. Can you repeat that question, please?
I said when I download a document, yes,
okay.
when I download a document and I want to save it, is there a particular way of writing the name of that document?
Okay, on Mandalay, no. There is no particular format you are expected to write the title of your document, as long as you can edit it on Mandalay's interface, all right? You notice that the documents that I uploaded from the already format, but I could navigate by editing them here. So for instance, I uploaded this particular document. You see, if you look at this side, but if I'm not content with the details I'm saying, I can edit it. So for instance, I can enter the name of the Journal of Sustainable Development. So what that means is that you can edit the details of the material of the file you uploaded on, you imported to Mandalay without necessarily saving it in a particular format. But what I do as practice to encourage the habit of citing is that as I download the file and I preview it, I quickly rename it with the name of the author, all right? So for instance, if I download the material by Professor Laide in 2019, and I have another material, an existing material by Professor Laide in 2011, there are two different articles or two different materials. So I go to the new one that I downloaded and save it as Olaide 2019, blah, 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 the title of the work. It makes it easier for me to distinguish which one is which. So Professor Laide may have written on climate change. I may also have written on circularity. And I'm working on circularity. So I might not want to import that particular document on climate change. So to make it easier for me to dictate which is which, I can rename the file itself. So it makes it easier for me to import. I hope you got that, sir. All right. So moving forward, I want to talk about how we can then use Mandalay in our writings. So you go to your manuscripts. Don't forget I said that you can use several materials for your several softwares like Grammarly, drafting. The most common one is Microsoft Word, but I want you to know that Microsoft Word is not the only software for writing. There are several other ones, but since we're already familiar with Microsoft Word, so you create your document, Climate Change in Africa, then if you have used the literature review matrix that I suggested earlier, it might be easier for you to import the summarized version of the material you have already, So for instance, I go a particular material by Professor Laide. Let me go back to the content. For those of you who are still not, who don't have Mandalay, please just listen. You'll be able to how you can access it. Okay. I'm showing us the writing, what's it called? Looking for Microsoft Word now. Okay.
Come back here, come back here. No, wait, not going anywhere now. You might be shaking there. Not going. I'm not going anywhere.
Still trying to share the screen. Okay. All right. So now this is my writing. Can you see on Yes, we are trying to navigating to the screen. Okay, so I hope you can see my Microsoft Word documents now, can we? All right, so, I was talking about how we can then use Mendeley to, cite, all right? And it's not automatic. Don't say because you've installed Mendeley, so therefore you can, cite with it when you have a writing project. You must have first installed Word plugin in Mendeley, all right? So let me show us how that is done. You would go to your Mendeley desktop, all right? I hope you can see the Mendeley desktop now. And you said the Mendeley desktop. Okay, so you will come here, tools, all right? Tools will give you a drop down where you see several options. Invite colleagues, install web importer, install MS Word plugin. You will select install MS Word plugin. All right. So for me to do that, I must have closed my Microsoft Word document. So if you have a Microsoft, you have to close it to be able to successfully install that as climate change in Nigeria. All right, just that many of us may not have heard or may not be familiar with Mendeley. So install, okay, it already has
Sorry, we have to get another device. So I was explaining, okay.
So I was explaining how you can get to use Mandalay for citing. Not enough that you have Mandalay. Okay.
Fine.
Not enough that you have. You must also be able to connect Mandalay and Microsoft Word. All right, and I showed us how that is done. You go to your Mandalay interface. So navigating there. All right, you go to your Mandalay interface. You remember, in case you can't see my screen, but for those of you who followed, you go to your Mandalay interface, you click on Tools, then you click on Install MS Word plugin. So once the plugin is installed in Word, you can then go to your Word document. All right. So for instance, I want to cite a particular article that I've already uploaded in my, what's it called? My Mandalay interface, my Mandalay library, all right? What I do is I open the Word document where I'm working, where I'm doing the writing, then my text is there, all right? Globally, rice has become the most important food crop in the country, in the developing world. This and that. Now, this point was made by, all right. Now, although it is just entered the name of the author, say for instance, Olaide Emmanuel, page number 15. All right, it's easy because you're familiar with other authors than Olaide, the citation feature. All right, so since I've already connected my Mandalay account, or I've installed the MS Word plugin Mandalay. All I need to do is to go to references on MS Word. At that, all right, I go to references. Then under references, you see there is an icon here called Insert Citation. How many of you can see it? I want to know if you can see what I'm doing. Okay, so that now I can either insert a particular citation style. In fact, I will show us how that is done later on, but let me quickly show you how to cite with Mandalay on Word. Because like I said earlier, there are different institutional manual of style. So you have to configure your Mandalay interface to have your unique manual of style, all right? But say we've already installed the APA manual of style on Mandalay. I think Mandalay uses the APA. From Mandalay, you can cite with APA. And as you update it, it regularly updates to the latest version of APA. I'm aware that there is currently the 8th edition, all right? But once you update or refresh your Mandalay app, it updates the updated one. But just to be sure, you also need to go check. But assuming we already have the APA manual of style, then we want to cite to that. We go to Insert Citation, all right? It takes us to a small interface, all right? Since you have already installed, or imported those materials on Mandalay, you should be able to search by the author name, or by the year, or by the title of the work, all right? But say just in case you can't remember that particular author or the title or the year, you will then click on Go to Mandalay, all right? So it brings you back to the Mandalay interface, all right? I hope you can see the Mandalay interface. All right, now you then see all the materials, all the files you have uploaded, you've imported into your library. Then you click on which one you want to use, all right, the one you're particularly interested in citing. Then you double click on it, all right. Once you double click on it, it opens it to another page, but on the Mandalay, on your Microsoft Word document, I'm wondering, just a minute. Oh, okay, I'm coming. So let me go back to the Word document. All right, just for the sake of you, I'm still saying the Microsoft Word Citation, all right? You had already opened it for me, so I can navigate from there. Okay, okay. So let me stop sharing. So I'm still on the Word document, all right? And I'm showing you how to cite with Mandalay, all right? And I said that once you've already installed the plugin on Microsoft, on Mandalay, you can easily access it via Microsoft Word. All you need to do is go to References. I think this is hanging. Try and restart it. The word is like, just a minute, please. We're still trying to navigate via Microsoft Word, but I hope you're following closely. It's important you also practice this by the side. That makes it easier for you to learn and ask questions when you feel you don't understand. So I was saying that, okay. Okay. All right. So now this is the, I'll call it the virgin documents, the virgin writing document I'm working on. I've already gotten the text. Now, if I remember the name of the author, I can easily enter it manually. But the idea of using a reference management software like Mandalay is for you to be able to automate your work stream. So you might not be able to remember all the names of the authors or the text you want to cite, but as long as you have them in your Mandalay library, you can easily go and refer to them there. All right, so from here, I navigate to references. All right, from references, I navigate to citation. All right, when I click on citation, a short drop down, if I'm correct, it ought to bring a short drop down. Okay, let's just assume it's the network, but it will normally bring a short drop down menu like it did earlier. So you can choose the particular author you want to cite from that drop down menu. All right, let's go back to our Mandalay interface so you can see what I'm talking about. Okay, so I'm back to Word. Let me open my Mandalay. So this is when you click on that, when it brings out that short interface from Word and you click go to Mandalay, obviously, since you already have the software, it opens Mandalay, all right? So you can then click on whichever of the works you want to cite, all right? So yeah, I'm interested in Ayinde Olawale. That's the particular work. Olawale Adeyemi, that's the work I want to cite in this particular text that I'm writing. So, I already clicked on that, and sometimes you can choose exports if you want to have the manual, what's it called, citation formats for that text in a Word document, all right? So what you do is you right click on that document, all right? Then you click export, all right? It exports as a BIB in a BIB text format. All right, so in the BIB text format, you can easily use it and upload that citation format software you're using. So other than Mandalay, in case you're using Cite or you're using Zotero, with that BIP text format, it will easily upload the references or the, what's it called now, the citation bibliographic information for all the materials you have. So that way you can manipulate between, or should I say you can navigate between 2 or more reference management softwares with Mandalay, all right? But back to the main course. Let me see if there is any question by anyone to be sure. Okay.
Yes, I have a question, please.
Okay,
thanks.
please.
My question is that, for example, this reference that you mentioned now, Ayinde Olawale, I'm writing 2 documents. I'm writing 2 articles.
Okay.
Now, will I create a folder? I'm writing an article on climate change. Then I'm writing on another article on world politics, maybe.
Okay.
Now, Ayinde Olawale, will I keep it in a folder for climate change and also keep it in another folder for the sustainable development or whatever? Thank you.
Now that's interesting. You know, I said earlier on that there is a general folder where you normally have most of the materials you download or you use for your writing processes or your writing projects, all right? So for instance, you have a single material that is relevant for 2 or more writing projects or article that you're writing. Now, if you have sufficient space on your device, you can copy that same file into the folder pertaining to the writing project you have named, all right? So for instance, if I'm writing on climate change and Ayinde Olawale is relevant for climate change, I put it in that folder. If I'm writing on, say, food politics and Ayinde Olawale is still relevant for that write-up, I put it. But you will find out that you have duplicate materials or duplicate file names of the same material. So to avoid that, you can create a central material, a central folder where many or all of the articles you know you will use for writing projects are. So from that central folder, you can then upload to Mandalay, all right? So like I showed us earlier, you will just click on watch folder. Let me go back there. So for those of us who might not remember, so since you already have Ayinde Olawale on your desktop and you have it in a particular folder that you know you will regularly access, you can just go to folder, so you can add all the materials already on that folder. But in case you will still add more materials to that folder, maybe other than Ayinde Olawale, you also have Labo de Pupola, and you have not yet accessed Labo de Pupola, rather than use that folder, I would advise you use watch folder. All right. So watch folder, you then go select the folder you want Mandalay to watch, just like the name watch. It's going to be shadowing that folder and really looking out for any new, my general folder, save materials into a space. So I'll ask Mandalay to watch the downloads folder and I'll click on apply. All right, then okay. All right, so all the materials that are currently in the downloads folder and I would still add to the downloads folder will be exported to Mandalay. I hope you got that. So that way you don't need to necessarily copy Ayinde Olawale to another folder. You can just use it directly from the general folder you have created. I hope that answers your question, sir.
Yes, thank you.
All right, so moving forward, sorry, we're still having this issue with the screen sharing, but I wanted to show us, since we've already installed the plugin, now we can then quote or cite with Mandalay. All right, so I go back to my Word document, my budget Word document. This is my writing material. I've already realized and done all of the necessary, articulation of my ideas. But it is still important that I reference this idea so it doesn't look as if they are only from me. So I need to use Mandalay to reference them. So like I said, you perhaps highlight the portion you want to cite. Say, from here, people have become more conscious of their diets, looking for more balanced diets with enough carbohydrates, blah, blah, blah. Was said by Indiola Wale. All right, so I go to references, all right? Then I go to insert citation. All right, so no, I don't want to replace. So let me on a lights. That was for a different function. All right, so I go to insert citation. Okay, still dragging. So I'm looking for the best possible way to navigate. Yes. So insert citation. Okay. I seem not to understand why this is giving us this, but let me just explain manually. So in case we can troubleshoot with this later on with your own devices. Once you go to insert citation, it brings out the drop-down menu. On the drop-down menu, you can search for the particular material you want to cite, say Ayinde Olawale. So you type Ayinde or any other word, keyword you remember, and you click on that file. It will bring out the bibliographic details of that file here, all right? I wish it brings it directly here so we could have seen how it works. All right, but I wouldn't want to waste time since time is already fast spent. So, but that's how it works really. If you want to try it later on after the webinar, I can, go through with us one after the other. So that's Mandalay for you. It's simple to use. And I was talking about configuring the, the plugin. I mean, the manual of style of your particular institution. So for instance, the University of Ibadan, where I used to be affiliated to, has its own unique manual of style, right? So if I want to cite a particular text, say my thesis or my whatever material I'm working on, according to the Ibadan manual of style, I must be able to configure Mendeley, all right, to recognize that manual of style. So what do? I go to edit. No, not the edit. I go to tools. Oh, okay, can't see it yet. Let me check which one it is. Yeah, I'll do that shortly. Okay, I think I've seen the problem why that word didn't go through. The word was yes. Okay, I'm coming on. I'm still navigating. So I was saying that if I want to cite according to an institution's manual of style, it is important that I make Mendeley realize or configure that manual of style on Mendeley. All right. So I go back to Mendeley. You go to tools. All right. Is that okay? Then from tools, you go to options, file, documents, file organizer, words folders, big text, Zotero, and your connection if you are connected to a local server. All right. But what I'm more interested now is in I'm coming, just a minute. Yeah. Okay. The general. So let me guess it's a network issue. Okay, yes, this is exactly where. So I come to view. I hope you're still together. Then I go to, among the drop-down menu that comes under view, you go to citation style. Now from citation style, you can see the several citation styles that are available on Mendeley. I told you that the APA is not the only citation style. There's also the AMA, the American Medical Association, the American Political Science Association. The APA is the American Psychological Association, and it's there by default. There's the American Sociological Association, what have you. Now, in case I can't find a manual of style of my institution here, I go to more styles. All right, then I click on more styles. Then it gives me another drop down where I search. If I can't still find the institutional manual of style that I want my work to be cited in, I have to go to get more styles. All right. Now, if you're connected to the internet, you can search directly. I don't know if this will work. Ibadan manual style. I don't know if it's online, but if it was online, you should be able to sheet. They call it citation sheet, yeah. But if you can't get it online, you then have to speak to your institutional librarian. Every university library has, or many university libraries, let me not generalize, has its own citation program or citation facility. All right, you can speak to the reference librarian in any of the institutions you attend to get you the citation style for that institution. All right, so for instance, if you are at the University of Ibadan, UI has its own manual of style available online. So I think for those of us who are in UI, I got the manual of style from a source. All right, so just a minute. I just want to probably round up.
It's totally on the desktop too.
Okay.
I have it on the computer.
Oh, okay. Okay. Just I just heard from Dr. Olaide that is available. But what I normally do when I source for citations is I copy it on a document, say on rich text or Microsoft Word, so I can easily navigate to it in case I'm not using my desktop. All right, so for the manual of style, the HTML is HTTP. Please follow me closely. I will post this on the on the chat box so we can, for those of us who are UI, affiliated to UI, we can copy it out. Mandalay, all right, .com/styles. All right, you see it's a URL. That means you have to have internet connection to be able to access it. 967.1.661. All right, /Unibadon manual of style. All right, -1. All right, so this is what you enter into the download style box. Don't forget, the reason we are doing this is because we cannot find the UI manual of style amongst the drop-down menu. But once the manual of style you want to use is already in the drop-down menu, all you need to do is just to select it. All right, but for those who want to adapt Mandalay to a particular manual of style, you will need to get the URL for the citation sheet. So walk up to your reference librarian and request for the citation sheet. So this is for you, for UI. Let me copy it onto the chat box. So for those of us who might find it useful. All right, that's it in the chat box. So we then click on download. All right, so it accesses it. So you see the UI manual of style has already been downloaded. So all I do is I click on it. All right, and I say use this style. All right, use this style, then I click on done. All right, so subsequently, any material I want to cite would be formatted according to the UI manual of style. So you see, it's easy. Rather than you, I find some colleagues of mine in UI always going to PG College to ask what's the UI manual of style, giving their work to third parties to help them adapt to UI manual of style. You can solve that problem when you have Mandalay, all right? And you don't have to wait, like I said earlier, until the last phase of your writing work for you to adapt your references to a particular manual of style. You can do that right from the beginning. So once you already start your documents as you're writing, you can just keep, referencing according to your institution's manual of style. And don't forget, I say that as you update and refresh the folders, it also updates the documents that you can, access with it. All right, so I'd like to stop here to take questions because I promised this would be an hands-on training. I didn't want to just keep talking without getting feedback from the audience. So if you have any question, I think this would be a good time to ask.
Yeah, I'll also be rounding off. So it's a month and 2 hours already.
All right.
It's 90 minutes.
All right.
We can take 20
not today. Yeah, so, but it's already explained. And in fact, I mentioned that for those who don't have access to Turnitin, because it's quite expensive. In fact, some institutions cannot afford it. Up until last week when I spoke with the university librarian at the University of Lagos, they had to renew their Turnitin subscription. So it's quite expensive, but there are other alternatives to turn it in. So maybe I just quickly touch on those alternatives for those who might want to access, what's it called? Plagiarism checkers that they don't have. All right. So that's that for Mandalay. I'd already explained to us how we can navigate Mandalay. And when you get the presentation, I would like you to try your hands on some of these exercises so we can assess our level of talk on Turnitin because of our time. But for those who might be interested in alternatives to Turnitin, there are at least 2 that I'm aware of. There are several others, but there are at least 2 that I've tried and have used in a way. Now, one is pre-post SEO. So you can just type it on your browser, prepostseo.com. It works almost like Turnitin. The only limitation is that it won't give you the number of similarities score because it doesn't update itself as Turnitin does, all right? But with pre-post SEO, you can see several other similar papers that may have been plagiarized, all right? So that would help you readdress or edit your record even before you get to the final stage. Now, other than pre-post SEO, you can also use Grammarly, and this is a 2-in-1 software. So you can use it to edit typographical errors. You can also use it as well to check for plagiarism, especially if you have the premium account. All right. So other than Turnitin, you can use pre-post SEO and Grammarly. I also mentioned in the presentation that there is Viper and there is also Authenticate. All right, so in case you can add good alternatives for plagiarism. All right, so we don't really have any excuse to plagiarize. Let me put it that way. And for those who are not available for free, I'm sure many institutions make attempts to get them. So all you need to do is reach out to your institutional library, your university library, or recent softwares that you have. And in fact, many institutions are skeptical of renewing that license because they don't get many students who come to consult them. So you see that we are the reason, many of the graduate students are the reason why some of our universities don't take certain steps, especially when it comes to addressing plagiarism. But when they see that graduate students are constantly using these softwares, they will also be encouraged to go renew them. Early this year, I renewed my Turnitin access. I mean, because I know that as an author, as an early career researcher, I will need to research and check for the.
Okay, so I enrolled for some courses on KSQL Academy, some light courses.
Is that related to this?
Is that a question?
Is that a question? Because someone was speaking in the background. I was just about asking you to raise your questions. But just to sum up what I was saying, there are several alternatives to Turnitin. You don't necessarily have to use Turnitin alone, but many institutions use Turnitin and they advise their students to also use it. So if you are a doctoral student or a graduate student, in fact, because I got Turnitin as a PhD student, but I learned that I could have also gotten it as a master's student. So you can speak to your supervisor if you're a master's student to give you access to Turnitin. All they need to do is to create an account for you. I'm aware that many lecturers already have access to it. So they will just open a classroom for you, right? then you can use it at their own discretion. And once you can adapt your work to turn it in, once you can check for the authenticity of the writings the words you put early enough, it will make it easier for you to be able to scale that stage when you're submitting your manuscript. The reason why many students fail their final examination, either their thesis, defense, or even at publication, is because they don't check for the originality of the work some early enough. And it is not because you actually plagiarize. We already said there are several forms of plagiarism. Sometimes you might be writing the same words that somebody else has used somewhere. And because that person was quick to publish that paper and you don't know about it, and you are making reference to that person's exact words, it will be seen that you plagiarized. So to save yourself from unnecessary embarrassment, it's important for you to check every word you write early enough. Like I suggested, after each 1,000 words. I wanted to say 1,000. After 1,000 words, plagiarism check, whether it is Storytelling, whether it is Grammarly, whether it is Viper. I have others I can also share with you, and they are free. Some of them are free. All right, so.
Hello, sir.
Take the question.
Okay, you wanted to ask something? Please speak on.
What of Zotero? I thought you were going to teach us how to use Zotero.
Okay, now I was saying that the reason why I used Mandalay was because Mandalay is more user-friendly, in my own opinion, than Zotero and the other reference management softwares, but they follow the same logic. All right, if you have Zotero, in fact, I would advise that you have either of both, as because they are also one of the most popular, but Mandalay is the most commonly used, really. So if you have Mandalay, for instance, you can use your references. Let me quickly show you how you can do that and import it on Zotero, or export any reference you have on Zotero to Mandalay, but using the same logic as Mandalay. Now, for Zotero, this is what you do. Let me share the screen. Once I've already imported my files, I hope you can hear me. Once I've already imported my files or my folder onto onto Mandalay, I go to View. All right. Okay. Other than View, let me go to there's a particular place I noticed it earlier on. I'm coming yes, this is it. So you see, amongst the list of options that you can export to, Zotero is one of them, right? So assuming Dr. Aide has Zotero already installed on this device, I can integrate both Mandalay and Zotero. So what I do is just click on Zotero integration. I browse to check for the Zotero database. So if you save your citation sheets on Zotero, you can name it, so you can easily import it into Mandalay or vice versa. So even if it's on Mandalay you worked on, or you save your citation sheet, you can also import them onto Zotero. That's why I'm saying it's good you have either or both. All right. So for instance, I saved a particular citation sheet earlier on. I don't know if it's still on the desktop. So I just copy it out. Okay, it's no longer there. But if it was there, I save it and I open and I upload it. All right. So that means as I upload, I can also reference with Mandalay, although I save my references with Zotero. I hope you got that. All right. But we might have to have another session on Zotero. But I personally recommend Mandalay because it is quite easy to use. It is not as complex as the others, in my opinion, and it's very effective. More so, you can get it for free. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Are there any other persons who want to to ask questions.
No, where?
Let me see if there's any question in the chat room.
Good.
They did not teach us Evernote too.
Hello?
Yes, I'm with you.
Can you hear me?
Evernote, you did not teach us Evernote.
Okay, the same point applies. Evernote is just a note-taking software. I already explained that earlier. I said with Evernote, you can just note down your references on the go. I hope you heard that. So for instance, if I have Evernote on my tablet or my phone and I visit a library and I'm not privileged to take away that publication I consulted, I can enter it in Evernote, all right? I don't have the interface here, I will have showed you, but if you download it on your phone, you see it's more like the average note-taking app. In fact, I use Evernote as my e-diary. In case I forget to take my diary, I use Evernote as my e-diary. So I just enter the details of the book, the author, the title, the year of publication, as well as other relevant bibliographic details. Now, as long as I've saved it on Evernote, I can export it to my email or to any other device, right? I don't know if there is an integration with Mendeley with Evernote on Mendeley with Evernote, but I'm not aware of that. But as long as I have it on Evernote, I can send it to my email, send it to any other software I want to work with. So that reference can then be adapted from Mendeley, Zotero, Citing, or any other reference management software that I'm using. But what is important, really, like I said, is that you trap your ideas and your sources digitally. All right, that's one thing I feel many of us don't do, and it makes it cumbersome when we want to reference. If you don't learn to trap your sources early, by the time you start writing, you find it difficult to retrieve them. But as long as you've trapped them digitally, you easily call them, right? It's just like our memory. If you don't keep repeating something, it stays in your subconscious mind, your subconscious memory. But as you keep remembering them, as you keep talking about them, as you keep discussing around it, it moves from your subconscious to your conscious, and you can easily retrieve them. All right. So once you trap this information, whatever it is, it can even be a chat, a WhatsApp chat. I back up my WhatsApp chat a lot because a lot of information there research useful for my research, especially when I'm communicating with experts. So for instance, I have an interview with someone and the person says, oh, I can't see you in person. Can we talk on WhatsApp or can we talk on Zoom? All right. I document that conversation and I have to reference it because I was not the one who mentioned or originated those ideas. It came from someone else. So from WhatsApp or from Facebook or from any other digital interface you use, you can just extract the information and upload it on Mendeley. I already showed you how you can manually enter a great literature on Mendeley. So once I have that on Mendeley, it's easy for me to cite it when I'm writing. So for instance, it was a WhatsApp chat I have with Professor Laide, and he told me rudiments about, in Nigeria. I will just, mention a conversation with Professor Laide, 26 to Mendeley, and when I'm writing, I can click on it. I make sure to see them on the document.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, thank you very much, sir. It's been almost 2 hours that we started this call. And I'm sure it's been a very useful time for everybody that has participated. At the peak, we had over 100 along the way. So it's now time for us to say thank you. Do I have Olabimpe Olayinka here on this call? Bimpe, are you there? Okay, I'm not sure the place there. Can any of the fellows give the vote of thanks? I told BP earlier, but maybe she dropped off at some point or she went for school runs. Thanks, please. Are you there? Okay, Bolwaja, you can do that on our behalf. Somebody's coming out. Bolwaja, please. Okay, on behalf of all of us,
Good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Yeah,
okay, on behalf of the fellows of African Graduates Mentorship and Coaching Program, I want to say a very big thank you to the organizers and to my fellows and also to the participants. This is a very interactive one, and I must say that we've learned a lot. I want to give kudos to Dr. Olaide for organizing this. Thank you very much. We look forward to more learning opportunities. Thank you, sir.
Yes, thank you too. And for us, part of we have another call, usually last Tuesday of every month, communication. I'm sure that the month of May is the month of our conference, the Secularity Africa Conference. If you have not submitted your abstract, you still have 2 days. Abstract submission closes on Thursday, that's 31st of March. So, and if you have submitted, you are waiting feedback, we'll get back to you in the first week of April. We just wanted the abstract submission to close so that we'll be able to reach everybody at the same time. And for today's call, you will have access to the presentation from today, and later you may, if you're able to edit because of some of the breaks that we had, you may have access to the video recording. Otherwise, the PowerPoint presentation will be accessible to you today. And you can also, from that presentation, I'll contact the guest speaker who may be able to guide you if you need more clarification. So on behalf of all of us at Images Initiative and AGMCP, wants to say thank you to everybody who joined some points. So thank you and hope to see you next week. Bye-bye. Can we turn on your video to take photo, please? Let's take some screenshots. Everybody, let's take screenshots. Can you turn your video, please? Everybody.
It's good to put names to the, faces to the names.
Okay, thank you and bye-bye.